Mixtape Monopoly, ho.
Everything y'all did, what it is, it been done. My shoe game,
This is Andy on radio,
can't touch this
certified
shit.
banger.
They said how about fuck me? Nah, fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch. They said how about fuck me? Nah, fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch. They said how about fuck me? Nah, fuck that bitch.
You heard of Shalom, Salakia. Before I get started, I'm gonna go all praise, honor, and glory to YAHAWAHSHI, YAHAWAHSHI, Rakakadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders that I learned this truth from, the men at GMS and the brethren with the like-minded doctrine. That song that you just heard, I don't own the rights to that song. You know, I'm using it under the Fair Use Act. Basically, that's how these nations feel about Edom. Mount Seir, the capital Salakia Basra, which is Babylon the Great, aka America. That's how these nations feel, you know, because that's what this lesson is about. I'm gonna play this video and a couple other more videos, maybe like two more, because I'm not trying to make this video too long. So without further ado, I'm gonna play this clip here. It says Saudi Arabia, United Arabic immigrants ignore phone calls from Biden. So I'm gonna let this video play. I got two more videos I'm gonna bring out after this.
And history will also judge Joe Biden, how he led Ukraine down the war path, how his failed diplomacy gave Russia the advantage. Do you remember what Biden said after taking office? America is back, he said. Diplomacy is back. Back to where exactly? Let me show you. Joe Biden's immediate priority is to stabilize oil prices, to make West Asian countries pump more oil. Just one problem. He cannot get through to them. And I mean literally. According to US media reports, the leaders of Saudi Arabia and the UAE are not answering Biden's calls. When did that happen? We don't have a specific date, but reports say in the last few weeks, the White House tried to arrange two calls, one with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the second with the UAE Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Both men, the Saudi and the Emirati, refused to take the call. But you know what's even more humiliating? Both of these leaders spoke to Vladimir Putin. What does this snub reveal? A trust deficit. Both Saudi Arabia and the UAE are key US defense partners. They depend on American weapons. They depend on American leadership. And Biden has failed to give both. He cut off military support for the war in Yemen. He declassified documents linked to the Khashoggi murder. Maybe the intentions were good, but the fact is, actions have consequences. You cannot alienate leaders and then count on their support. If you do, they will not pick up your call. Joe Biden should know this. He keeps bragging about his 50-year career, about his foreign policy chops. But what has he achieved with all this experience? He could not even unite the West. Each country was saying something different. Biden said Nord Stream 2 would be cancelled. Germany refused to comment. Biden said he was open to cutting Russia off from SWIFT. Europe was not. And now Biden says he's banning Russian oil and gas. Again, Europe is not. On Nord Stream and SWIFT, Europe did relent, but by then it was too late. Russia had already reached the gates of Kiev. Biden had enough time to prepare, to reach out to his allies, to work on joint sanctions. But Joe Biden, the President of the United States, was slow to react. His supporters say it's part of quiet diplomacy. Well, maybe it is, but Biden's diplomacy was so quiet, Russia could not even hear it. And the president has a history of this. On most foreign policy issues, Joe Biden has been wrong. We made a list for you today. In 1991, he opposed the war against Iraq. As it turned out, it was a resounding military and diplomatic success. In 2003, he supported the invasion of Iraq. We all know how that turned out. Mistake number 3 came in 2011. Joe Biden changed his position on Iraq. He pushed then-President Barack Obama to withdraw US soldiers. What happened next? Sectarian violence, more meddling from Iran, and finally the emergence of ISIS. Mistake number 4, Biden said the collapse of Afghanistan's civilian government was not, quote-unquote, inevitable. As it turned out, it was inevitable. The Taliban conquered Afghanistan even before America's evacuation. Take any foreign policy decision, chances are Joe Biden chose the wrong side. I'll give you another example. This is from 1997, when Biden was a senator. He was responding to a simple question. If NATO expands eastward, would Russia move closer to China? Listen to his reply.
They talked about they don't want this NATO expansion. They know it's not in their security interest and on, and said, well, and if you do that, we may have to look to China. And I couldn't help using the colloquial expression from my state by saying to Zaganoff, lots of luck in your senior year. Good luck. And if that doesn't work, try Iran.
Yeah, that was a lot being said there. Basically, what they were saying in the beginning, so I should have stopped it there. But just to point out that what he was asking for, Saudi Arabia's help when the U.S. ignored them when they needed the U.S. they was ignored by them. So they basically doing the same thing, just like the scripture said. The Most High is not mocked. Whatever a man soweth, that way he also reap. And also, that's because of I think it's ill dealings or unrighteous dealings. The kingdom is translated from one kingdom to a next, from one people to a next. Salakia. I'm gonna see if I can grab that real quick. Yeah, that's Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 10 and 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings and injuries and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, man. Because that's how Esau Edom wrote these unrighteous decrees, these ill dealings that Esau Edom does, that wine that all the nations are drunk, now all the nations are mad. That's how, he's got the nations drunk off his philosophies, his policies, democracy, and pretty much he does what he wants. And he's never upholding his part of the bargain. He always go back on his word. That's Esau Edom, you can't trust him. The devil, which devil means deceiver. So that's what he's doing, deceiving. What it says in Revelations, what he go about deceiving the whole world. Salakia. Yeah, this is on Revelations 12 and 9. And that great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. So that's Esau Edom, man. From that serpent in the garden, all the way to this great dragon, which I'm not getting off subject because that's not what I'm here. But that's what he did. He deceived the whole nations, man. He deceived the whole world through his philosophies, policies, his democracy. His way of living. He had the whole world deceived and drunk off that wine. Which I'm gonna get back to this video, Salakia. I got a couple more videos I want to bring out. I think two. Yeah, I got this video here. It says another sanctions. Salakia. Any sanctions on India would be extremely foolish. So this video is gonna go into the U.S. Babylon the Great is trying to sanction India. So I'm gonna let this play for a little bit, and I got one more video.
At a hearing on the U.S. relationship with India, U.S. lawmakers criticized India for being one of 35 countries that abstained from a UN vote condemning Russia's invasion. The red light has gone up in Washington after India abstained for the third time on a UN Security Council vote demanding an immediate Russian withdrawal from Ukraine. Under the CAATSA Act, the Biden administration is considering whether to impose or waive sanctions on India for its purchase of Russia's S-400 Triumph missile defense system. Ted Cruz, a top Republican senator, has told the Biden administration that sanctioning India for purchasing S-400 missiles from Russia under the punitive Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act would be extremely foolish. According to him, the bilateral relationship between India and the United States has deteriorated during the Biden administration. India is not the only country that voted against condemning Russia. The United Arab Emirates also voted against it. The UAE is a close ally of the US, and it was a key player in the Abraham Accords, which fundamentally transformed the entire Middle East and brought Israelis and Arabs together under American leadership. CAATSA is in US law. The American government can impose sanctions on any country that has significant transactions with Iran, North Korea, or Russia under this federal law. The law imposes economic and financial sanctions on any country that transacts in arms with Russia. Since August of 2017, the law has been in effect. During India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's official visit to the United States in 2019, he strongly maintained India's right to purchase Russia's S-400 missile defense system, despite US sanctions threats. He stated, "We don't want any government telling us what to purchase or not buy from Russia, any more than we want any government telling us what to buy or not buy from America. That freedom of choice is ours, and we believe it is in everyone's best interests to acknowledge it." So, what happens if US imposes CAATSA on India? CAATSA puts India in a difficult position because India has long relied on Russian military logistics, after being rejected by many other Western countries. However, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has complicated matters. Washington has been somewhat understanding because India has diversified its defense procurement in recent years, reducing its reliance on Russia to some extent, which is one of the conditions for obtaining a CAATSA waiver. CAATSA Section 235 lists a total of 12 types of sanctions, with experts believing that 10 of these restrictions will have little or no impact on India's current relations with Russia or the United States. However, 2 of these sanctions will have an impact on the Indian economy. The first of these restrictions is a prohibition on banking transactions, which, if applied to India, will make it difficult to pay in US dollars. At the same time, the second ban is related to exports and may have an impact on relations between the United States and India. Through this ban, the US can refuse to grant licenses and accept exports for any goods under its control. The sanctions will have a greater impact on the United States than on India. If the US decides to impose CAATSA on India, it will demonstrate that the US views Russia as its primary strategic threat, rather than China, and that imposing secondary sanctions on India will reverse bilateral ties by at least 2 decades. CAATSA sanctions could have a detrimental effect on India's strategic partnership, while also failing to achieve the intended goal of deterring Russian arms sales. Washington must recognize that adhering to CAATSA in an interdependent world is counterproductive and diverts attention away from the main focus of countering China's main threat. Sanctions imposed by the US on India will complicate US foreign policy in South Asia. At a time when China is becoming more aggressive, and relations between the US and Pakistan are deteriorating, the US does not want to lose its only strategic ally in South Asia that it knows can counter China.
So what is that? I could let the video play on. See, what is that, man? He's trying to sanction India for buying weapons from Russia, and I think they didn't vote against Russia invading Ukraine or something like that. So that's that democracy, man. That's why, which is the theme of this lesson here is what you are greatly despised among the heathen, man. That's what Esau Edom, man. Basra, which is Babylon the Great, aka America. That's why, like that song said, F that bitch. That's how these other nations are feeling, right? And who is that? Who is that bitch? It's Babylon the Great, aka America. That's that bitch. That's how all these nations are feeling for real. which they gonna all, even their allies is gonna all shoot missiles on Babylon the Great, man. Which I got another video I'm gonna bring out. Slakia, bear with me. Yeah, this is the video too. It's another video from India. It says when the Indian historian lashes out at the West. I'm gonna let this video play too.
I listen to Boris Johnson, when I listen to people like Joe Biden, when I listen even more to Emmanuel Macron, all I can think of is how condescending you are. Glasgow was the UK's second most important city. Beautiful buildings, beautiful streets, a gorgeous city. When I see cities like this, I think also about the other side of it. There's a phrase from Walter Benjamin: every monument of civilization is also a monument of barbarism. I think of the famines in Bengal, the jute workers in Bengal sending jute to Dundee through the Glasgow port. I think of human beings from Africa enslaved and brought from Ghana to the New World, and all those prophets getting sucked into cities like London and Glasgow. Between 1765 and 1938, the British Isles stole $45 trillion pounds from India, 45 trillion sterling from India. We never got paid for that. When the British left India, when we threw the British out, our literacy rate was 13%. So much for several hundred years of so-called civilization. Meanwhile, our landscapes were destroyed. Coal was foisted on India. You foisted coal on us. You were the ones that came and made us coal dependent. And then you left, and now you dare to condescend to us. When I listen to Boris Johnson, when I listen to people like Joe Biden, when I listen even more to Emmanuel Macron, all I can think of is how condescending you are. You condescended to us 400 years ago. You condescended to us 300 years ago. You condescended to us 200 years ago. You condescended to us 100 years ago. You're condescending to us today. You only know condescension because for you, colonialism isn't something that happened in the past and we defeated you. It's not that. For you, colonialism is a permanent condition. And that permanent condition happens in two ways. There's the permanent condition of the colonial mentality. You want to lecture us. You want to tell us that we are responsible for all the problems because you'll never accept that you're the one principally to blame. You signed the Rio Formula in 1992 on common and differentiated responsibilities. You like the common part. You like the common part. You like to say we're all in this together and so on. We're not in this together. The United States, 4-5% of the world's population, still uses 25% of the world's resources. You outsource production to China and then you say China is the carbon polluter. China's producing your buckets. China's producing your nuts and bolts. China's producing your phones. Try to produce it in your own countries and see your carbon emissions rise. You love lecturing us because you have a colonial mentality. Then there are colonial structures and institutions. You lend us money, and every time you lend us money, which is our money, every time the International Monetary Fund comes to our societies and they tell us, here's the money we are giving you. No, it's our money. You give us our money back as debt, and then you lecture us about how we should live. The climate justice movement is a movement that says we're worried about our future. What future? What future? Children in the African continent, in Asia, in Latin America, they don't have a future. They don't have a present. They're not worried about the future. They're worried about their present. Your slogan is, we're worried about the future. What future? That's a middle-class bourgeois Western slogan. You got to be worried about now. 2.7 billion people can't eat now. And you're telling people, reduce your consumption. How does this sound to a child who hasn't eaten in days? You've got to clue into this, guys. You've got to clue into this. Otherwise, this movement will have no legs in the third world.
So you heard that from this guy, historian from Elam, Slovakia. Let me get that other video. Bear with me. Yeah, that was so these nations are upset, man. Let me get that. The nations are mad. They drunk of the wine. They are mad. So like it. Yeah, this is Jeremiah 51:7. It says Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken, and the nations have drunk of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. And that dude was furious, man. You know, all these nations are upset with Babylon the Great, aka America, man. They are mad. So I'm gonna get into what the theme of this video is. He is greatly despised. So I'm gonna get that. I think I'm gonna start with Obadiah the first chapter. So like it. It is Obadiah 1:1. It says the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord God, YAHAWAHSHI, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord. An ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And you seen in those videos, you know, these other nations, man, they are basically fed up with Esau Edom, man. They see weakness in this country. This country's a laughing stock to these other nations, and they see, you know, they basically they smell blood, so to speak, man. And, you know, and that's what's gonna happen, man. This place is gonna be destroyed by their enemies and their allies. Which I'm gonna go into verse 3, and it says, "The pride of thy heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwelleth in the cleft of the rock, whose habitation is high, that hath said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?" So that's how Esau Edom, you know, that's how he thinks, man. Like it says in I think Psalms 49 or Psalms 40. Salakia. They think their house is going to continue forever, so to speak. I mean, roughly paraphrasing, you know. You think they can't be taken out of power, man. It says verse 4, Obadiah 1:4, it says that though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord, YAHAWAHSHI. So that's what's going on, man. Yeah, may Esau bear. All these nations all see the hypocrisy of Esau Edom, man. Babylon the Great. They see the hypocrisy. They see the unrighteousness, the lawlessness of Esau Edom, man. And I'm going to skip to verse 6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? He sought up and found, and he searched out through this word, through the word here, man. He's being revealed through the word, through the Holy Spirit, Yahweh, or the Rakakadash, man. YAHAWAHSHI, YAHAWAH, YAHAWAHSHI is revealing this demon in these latter days, which I'm gonna go into. I want to go to Jeremiah, the 49th chapter. Basically, it's saying the same thing. Jeremiah 49, I think it's like 13 or 14 verse. It's basically saying the same thing. Jeremiah 49:14. I have heard a rumor from the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her and rise up to battle. Which that battle is what? Battle of Jehoshaphat, which means Yahweh Shaphat, which is Yahweh Shaphat means the Lord's judgment, which is gonna judge all these nations there, man. You know, that third world war, which is the third woe, is talked about in Revelations. It says, for lo, I have made thee small among the heathen and despised among men, man. So do you see that in those clips that these nations are they despise this place, man. They despise Babylon the Great, man. They don't want any dealings. You see, like United Arabic Immigrants, if I'm saying that correctly, the UAU, Slovakia, the UAE, they didn't answer this guy's phone call. Joe Biden, man. Jim Crow Joe, they didn't answer his phone calls, man. You know, and plus, you know, these clips in India, he's trying to sanction everybody, man. This whole is fucking with everybody, basically, you know. And these other nations, they're fed up with this whore, man. So I'm gonna read verse 16. Thy terribleness hath deceived thee, the pride of thy heart, O thou that dwelleth in the cleft of the rock, that holdest the heights of the hill. Though thou should make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord, Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi. Also Edom shall be a desolation, every one that goeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi. No man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell there, man. So I'm gonna read this in the verse 18 in the New Living Translation, and it says, Salakia. I'm gonna start at 17, the New Living Translation to your right. It says, Edom will be an object of horror. All who pass by will be appalled and will gasp at the destruction they see there. It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring towns, saith the Lord Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi. No one will live there. No one will live there. No one will inhabit it. So how Sodom and Gomorrah? It was fire and brimstone that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So that's a future prophecy of Babylon the Great, of Esau Edom, that lets you know, like it says Second Ezra, the 6th chapter, in the ninth verse. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So we're at the end of this rulership of Esau Edom. You know, and it's going to be met with destruction, fire and brimstone, which is the second death by thermonuclear destruction. Those ICBM missiles, man. Those nuclear missiles. That's what's going to turn this place, Babylon the Great, into the lake of fire, man. Which all the elements will melt with fervent heat. So that's why all these nations, you know, they got caught spying on the allies twice. You know, leaving certain countries out of meetings, like Hungary. You know, this ill dealings, man. Unrighteous decrees, ill dealings with Babylon the Great. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it on. That's what it is. They are Esau Edom is greatly despised, man. Basra is greatly despised, man. So I'm gonna leave out with this video, that a song that you know, I don't own any rights to this song. You know, although I'm trying to profit off of it for educational purposes only. So I'm gonna leave it on that. You know, that's how these nations feel. And I'm gonna go ahead and close out, and I'm gonna say, Call Halayim La Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Shalom. To the next time, Yahawah Ratazah, which means Lord willing, and Wa Ababa Ball. DTA soon.
Westside, Bank Hill,
Mixtape Monopoly, ho.
everything. Y'all did.
What it is?
It been done. My shoe game,
This is Andy on radio,
Can't touch this
certified
shit.
banger.
Bitch said hollering about fuck me. Nah, fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch.
Fuck that bitch.
Fuck that bitch. Bitch said hollering about fuck me. Nah, fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch.
Fuck that bitch.
Fuck that bitch. Bitch said hollering about fuck me.